Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lead Podcast, where it's our intention to support the development of the next generation of hospitality industry leaders. So excited to have Amy and Robin as our leads on this episode here today. And the topic that we focus on is your network is your leadership advantage, building real relationships in hospitality. I wanted to look down and read it to the audience to get the title. Is we really want to reframe networking. And why I'm excited about this, I'll share off the gate. I was terrified to network. I found it inauthentic as a young leader, and I didn't know how to approach it because I didn't understand it. And once I did, my career completely changed, but it took me a while to get outside my comfort zone. So I don't want to project my story to yours, but I'm sure some of the audience can relate. Amy, you're world class at networking. It's great to see you. How are you?
Thank you, as always, Mr. Rolfe. And I am super excited for this session today because Robin is not only an industry icon and leader, but she is also a friend to a lot of us. And what she is bringing to the session is game changing, I think, for emerging leaders. Again, Robin, a lot of our folks are in restaurants, they're running restaurants, they're working on becoming um, people like you, leaders like you and Matt and role models in the industry. And so it was fun this past week. We just had a chef reach out who's growing in their role, and they're just like, when are more sessions going to be published? And it's really been
That's
fun to
great.
watch. So thanks for being on. And you've had an incredible
Absolutely.
journey. Do you mind sharing a little bit about who badass Robin Blanchette is?
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure I would concur, but I appreciate you, Amy and
We
Matt.
are
Thanks
working
for
on
having me.
women's confidence. Robin is a badass. Robin.
That is a badass.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna blame my generation, but for that, the diet culture and Gen X, self-deprecating as we are. So, my journey has been really I've been in restaurants a long time. I actually my very first paycheck, I worked in a food court in Houston, Texas, in Town and Country Mall, which has now been bulldozed and replaced with the higher end kind of I don't know, outdoor mall. But I've always loved this industry, and I went into retail really after college in the retail corporate environment. I wanted to be in marketing and advertising. I was a film major by that was my degree. Um, and sort of, the thing I loved about sort of retail and restaurants is the people. I mean, that's always been my jam, and I am an extrovert. I mean, Matt, you were mentioning being an introvert. Um, just care. I guess I just care and love people. I mean, I've always been that way. My parents are that way. My mother is like the ultimate networker. I've never seen anybody do what she does at 86 years old. She's like running the prayer shawl ministry at her church, and she's like, and I think
You've
I
had a
just
great role model. That's awesome.
Oh, fantastic, and, we would always joke that we had to take separate cars, on Sunday because my mom would be hanging around talking to people and hearing, about what they're doing, and my dad would be like, "I gotta get home for the football game," like, "What are we doing here?" So yeah, I mean, I've always had the role models along the way, but I think the industry that I chose too, retail is very similar, that the people are just filled with hope and joy, I guess, they're excited about meeting new people, they're standing at the front doors of their businesses, greeting people like it's your home, and that's really how I got forever into the restaurant industry. I fell in love with it, meeting people like Karen Stutz, who was also a role model to me. She's one of the very first people I had to present to at Applebee's back in the day, and I think I was 28 or 29 years old when I met her. And Julia Stewart was our president as well, and she was a founding member of Women in Food Service. So, watching those folks who are ahead of me love people and care about their growth, I think is really how I got here. We're not even talking about the actual career or the job I had. And that's, I would say, less important than the actual sort of, relationships that we built over our careers.
And wanted to jump right into what's in the way for the emerging leader. So we talked briefly before the recording. We talked about that I was an introvert. There's
Yeah.
extroverts. We all are who we are, but there still could be a reservation for no matter your personality type, an emerging leader to really to embrace
Yeah.
relationship building or networking. What do you feel is in the way for for an emergency leader? What could be, and how can they overcome it?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the barriers, and I hear this often, sort of my family's in the hospitality business. I hear this all the time. Well, we only budget for one event for per year. Or, there is this thought that networking or building these relationships outside of your job um are recruiting events. And you're going to be taken away from the company. And I'm not sure that most companies are super supportive of this. And like I always think, if I'm going to lose somebody here to a networking event, or getting to know people, then that's on me. Like, as a business owner, like, my job is to help people expand their careers, whether they work here or someplace else. So I do think, from a budget perspective, going to conferences and, you know, getting out there is a barrier for younger, or emerging leaders. Um, I also think that, I mean, if I put myself back in my old life on the brand side or operation side, I was very heads down. Like, I'm like focused on, especially in a sales strapped um environment. Like, it's really hard to kind of get out and spend any time out, especially I was raising young kids. I was a single parent there for a while. I was really focused on, my job, and my job is like, marketing leaders, their job is, you own sales, man. I mean, like, if you can't drive comp sales or traffic, or profitable sales, you gonna have to be looking for another job. So, I mean, it is. So I think there's a barrier to that, especially at the emerging leader place. Once I became a chief marketing officer, had more I had more opportunity to kind of get out and meet people. So later in my career, I really did more of that. But I will say, and this is, I guess, a recommendation, because I have my own kids are in college and starting their career path. It's like, the people you work with are your people. Like, start there. Like, we all make friends at work. I mean, even if you're an introvert, especially if you're a bartender or if you're in the restaurants, everybody's like, you'll never forget those people. And if you leave there, don't forget to keep those relationships going. So even as an introvert, there's ways to do it, even if you're not going to conferences or you're not getting out there. It's in your own four walls. Yeah.
I think one of the things we try to do at Lead is have those mini conferences so people can
Yes.
go and build connections, not just in their four walls, bring those people and add more connections and value to their networking into those rooms. And I'm
So
excited
true.
for the one we've got coming up in Dallas.
Mhm.
But Robin, say if all the listeners are, again, mostly emerging leaders in the industry, um, how would you advise them to connect or get a mentor, or even start earlier than all we did? When I think about my hospitality family and community now, like you and Matt and Karen, and if I would have had this group at a younger age, I think my career would be in a much different place. And
Agreed.
so I'm curious, I now and when we were growing up through the industry, we didn't have access to the social media and these things. So, like, are
Yes.
there one or two things that you think somebody could be doing as a restaurant manager or a GM or a director or a VP or a C-suite level, to make those connections so that people are advocating for them when they're not in the room and they do know what value they bring?
I mean, I think that we have to be curious, first of all. Like, if you're a GM and you feel, and it's the same way as being a CEO of your own company, I have to reach out. I can't just sit here in my office, or you can't just sit there in your store in your four walls and go, I wonder how I could possibly solve this problem, or I wonder how I could get to know more people.
Because so many people solved it before.
Right. I mean, we all have, like, you have to be curious. I think, as a GM in particular, or in any role really, reach out to another one of your stores. If you are in an environment, maybe you're not in an independent, maybe you have another, in within your same market, you've got another GM within the same region that you can connect with. Love to, like, come over to your store sometime and see what you guys are doing. You're a pace setter, you're winning. Like, I want to be winning. How can I be? And that person understands your jam. They know what you've got going on because they're dealing with the same thing. And so even as an introvert person, because I have some of those here at my company and my husband's an introvert, we talk about this all the time. Like, can't you be, it's better one-on-one anyway. As an it's better to reach out and just know one person instead of have this whole you're walking into a ballroom of a whole bunch of people to ask, so I think that's being curious and being willing to reach out, and I think certainly, I mean, I'm around Gen Zs all day long, and they do have a little bit of a struggle getting on the phone or sending a message and sort of that outreach, so I would say just you gotta put yourself you have to. Now, you have to touch grass with somebody else, you know what I mean? You've gotta get out there a little bit.
And I love what Amy and Robin shared there. If we just started this journey earlier, we could all agree to what
Oh,
the benefit would be, right? It'd be multiples of connection, and not just connection and upward opportunity, but connection and purpose and community and all these
so
things.
true.
One thing that I'll share, like, because we use the word introvert and extrovert. So I have naturally been an introvert. I had a learning disability growing up, so I was trained to be an introvert. And it was more what I want to share to the audience out there. I'm just awkward to get in a conversation. Amy knows this now. I'm still awkward to get into a conversation at times.
Awkwardly fabulous.
Awkwardly, but that's what I want to the people out there that have the extrovert might have that drive, but the introvert, might just have a different approach. But what I can share with you, the benefit on the other side of the fear, of the anxiety, of the unknown, of the Gen Z who doesn't want to pick up their phone because they're not used to it. The benefit on the other side is incredible, and it has changed my life, and I hope you embrace it. But Robin, I want to come back to you. That's my rant here because I want to tie it back
That's
into
so good.
what's the biggest misconception in networking? Like we talk introverts, extroverts, but like what we're trying to do is spark a leader at any point in the industry to lean more into their community. What's the misconception that's out there now that you feel can be changed?
That it feels disingenuous, it's fake in some way, it's not authentic, it's not genuine. I mean, I think as a humans, we want friends, right? Anyway, so I think that's just sort of the misconception is that it's some sort of, transactional, event kind of thing. It's not authentic and, I mean, we can only have s I guess we could have thousands of friends. We can't only have a few authentic, really close, genuine depth, deep relationships, but I think that's I think that's a misconception. I mean, I have, and I won't use her name, but I have somebody that works here that is one of my just most favorite people, and she's a not one to get out and network, and she recently went to an event where she was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that a couple of these people had my exact life. Like we're dealing with the same issues, the same problem." And it literally changed her view of doing some of the things that we do here at Norton to kind of get out, and I think, organizations like Gleam, and full disclosure, I'm on the board of Gleam. It's one of my favorite things to be involved with because it allows for this one-on-one matching. So there is this sort of inauthentic, weird first meeting where you're like, I don't know. I mean, my mentee right now is super introverted and she's like, I don't even know where to begin. And the match is so perfect, but it started a relationship that she would have never had with me because she wouldn't have come to anything. Like she wouldn't have even reached out or anything like that. And she says that, that's something that she shared. So I think I think that that's the misconception. It's just it can be real if you allow it to be real.
Do you feel that there's also misconception around how much time it takes to build these
Oh,
relationships? Because
yes.
people think it takes hours and hours and hours and they're already booked and we're still I just read about it again this weekend that we are still in the worst crisis when it comes to mental health and more people are living alone than ever and sometimes you just want somebody to text and say like are you doing okay, I just posted about it this morning like are we checking in on one another and so I think there's this misconception of you need to go to an event or you need to join a program or you need to spend hours building relationships. And I just don't think that's it. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. If you're an emerging leader listening, like how do they do that?
Well, I'm gonna use the phrase that my son went to learning differences high school and grew up in a learning differences environment. And they used to say all the time, trust the process. Like, you just need have to have a little bit of faith in the fact that if you reach out, somebody's gonna come back to you. It's gonna what you're gonna give out is gonna come back. And
Love that.
I mean, it's I use trust the process because of, everything raising him, and he's now a college graduate, which there's a whole bunch of there's a whole nother story I could go off on that topic. But um, you know, it works where when you invite somebody to do something and it's very uncomfortable, it comes back to you. And I think that's a piece of advice I would give. And that's not even from my own work experience. It's more about as from my parenting experience of like, look, you can't sit around and just wait all day long for somebody to reach out. If there's something you want to do, you gotta make an effort. It'll come back to you. That person will invite you too. And Karen, mentioned Karen Stutz again because she always says these are my give back. This is my give back time. And, that doesn't have to be when you're, my age. It could be when you're 24, or 21 or, 15. I mean, this is my give back time. I say all the time, you give what you get what you give. And if you're not willing to put in any time at all on building relationships, you're probably not going to get any. You have to make some level of effort. So, and I think my mentee did that, right? She said, "I saw this thing about Gleam. I'm gonna give myself this. I'm gonna do this." And she reached out, and that was very uncomfortable. So,
And she's great. We love her.
yeah, she's fantastic. So,
And it's amazing that she reached out. And one thing that you just shared that really hit for me, I've been working. I call him my coach, Tony Robbins, for those that know him. And I've been working with Tony on and off for 15 years. And he's always said, if you can't get back at the early stages, you won't find the time or the ability to do it later. So it's 15 years ago, he said, take out your wallet and you're going to give 10% to this amazing cause. I said, Tony, I don't have it. He said, you do.
yeah,
And it changed my life. He said, I promise you. And he said, it's not about the money. Like they raised
no.
$1 million in the room that day.
Mhm.
And it was a great cause. But it was about the commitment to give back early.
Yeah,
And the opportunity to do so. And I love that that leader reached out. So I want somebody watching, and if there's somebody, I want you to reach out to Gleam. Reach out if that's a
yeah.
great opportunity, or come see us in Dallas. But one thing, as we talk about this concept of networking, some are thinking about how do I network up? So how do I get access to Robin and Amy? But also, what would you recommend, like tactical steps to create a bigger network for somebody at a position higher than yourself perceived?
Mhm.
But also any recommendations for a peer, like how they take this, they look at somebody, they admire them in their organization. How do they create a peer connection if there's two different paths?
Well, I don't know. I don't this worked for me, and I'll use this example because I had when I first it was my first vice president job, and I was coming into an organization that had just been bought by a private equity company, so it was sort of like a startup, but a brand that had been around a long time. And I had had a lot of not great interactions at my previous job with supply chain. So as marketer, you really have to be connected to supply chain because you can't sell something we don't have. And I had not great experiences with it, and I was like, I need to build a relationship with supply chain. So I'm a new vice president, need to think differently. And I went into this organization where the supply chain lead was somebody who had been in this business forever, solid 20 years before me. And I was very nervous because I had not heard, I'd heard that like this was a hard thing. And we were in seafood, and that's really hard because it's not most of it's not farm raised. So I thought to myself, you know what? She's somebody I could probably really learn from. So my advice would be to ask for advice. And I think that from somebody who's more senior than you is to say, look, I have to, hey, I come from the Brene Brown, like, I'm in on the vulnerability thing. Like, I'm going to come to you and with bended knee and say, I have never done this before. I've never been at this level before. And I just need your advice. I need your guidance. And that person has become one of my very best friends. And um, I I will give anybody that advice because to go to a senior leader and say, what would you tell me? When you were in my job, what did you learn? So I would say, ask for guidance, ask for advice, and humble yourself. It's okay. Like, it's going to be all right. Nobody's going to take advantage of you. Like, you really came heart in hand, like, to say, help me. So I would say that for a senior leader, that's one of my favorite things. Like, I love it when people come and are like, what do you think? What should I do? Um, and then peer to peer, I mean, that's really about friendship to me. If you know how to make a friend, this is how it is. Like, we're all kind of in the same boat here. And when you leave a company, this is the one thing I think that people don't recognize, because I see these memes all the time on social media where it's like, hey, all those people you were down in the dirt with all those years, and then you leave and you never see them again. Well, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like,
Some of my best friends are from past jobs. Yeah.
absolutely. Same.
Yeah.
And I was just at the fast casual gala in Chicago, and one of a gal that was one of my peers, we were pregnant together at the same time. Our girls are the same age, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, remember that when we had to go to this thing?" And we've stayed in touch ever since. But we have these things. It's like, look, it is about, even if you leave someplace, don't leave those people behind. I
You
mean,
don't leave the relationships.
don't leave
It's
the relationship.
no.
No, some
Yeah.
of them you might want to, but and that's okay. They're not your circle, but it's like, don't
And
lose that.
become lifelong friends, though. I agree with
Amen.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I love that. So when you were young and roll, how did you start building your community? Like you just talked about the woman, pregnant at the same
yeah.
time, staying
Mhm.
in touch, all of those people. I think that there's a different world right now where I don't think people think to stay in touch like that. And I don't know that the young emerging leaders are thinking that it's important to do so, but it is because you never know when you're going to work with them again. I've had that happen a few times in my career where all of a sudden you're full circle and you're working in same company with some of
Right.
the similar people. But also what they say about you in and out of the room might get you the next seat. And so if you're making a great impression in that role, would something come across down the line? And not to double up
Yeah.
on questions, but I am. One of the things that you hit on also is that if you're a GM, go down the street and go into another building and hang out with that GM or build that connection. I think it's a very, very large point to make because you only know what you know. And in roles, you know what you know. And if you're at the top of a scorecard or you're kicking tush in the role that you're in,
Hmm.
there's always somebody that probably might be doing something that you
That's
can
right.
as well. And so you continue to evolve and get better yourself. So where you might be at number one, there's still other areas. And so I used to pay for myself to go visit other GMs as a GM. And I would say that person's better at that. I'm going to go work a shift. And my boss would say, "Where are you going?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm taking off my 2 days. I'm going to go work with that person so that I can learn what they're doing so I can be better at that
That's so
too."
cool.
Right. So
Yeah,
you keep
I love that.
evolving.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of
love
a
that.
two big point question, but how do you keep those relationships going and take them with you and then and invest in yourself and them, and then also, how do you make sure that you're in your point, a curious state of mind and evolving
Yeah.
learning?
Well, I do think, in this case, social media has done a really good job of keeping people connected. I think
Yeah.
LinkedIn is, there's some people that don't like it, I guess, but I kind of think it's a great
For
way
those
to.
listening, what is LinkedIn, Robin? Because there's a lot of folks that are in restaurants that
That's a
don't
great
have an
question.
account yet. Yeah.
I mean, LinkedIn is sort of the Facebook, Instagram for the business community around the world. I mean, it is worldwide, and it is a way. So, you know, it's if you've been on a team and you're leaving a job or you're at your job, link in with the people you work with. I tell college, students all the time, and I get some people that come through here, and I say, when you leave here, I want you to go back to your phone and link in with everybody you just met, every single person. You can make it great to meet you today, or, just link in with everybody. There, it's basically your. Uh, I told you I was bringing a prop. It's your new Rolodex, and I still have
What is a Rolodex, Robin?
What is that?
it. Mhm, mhm.
I haven't seen one of those since, the Jetsons started.
I know. I'm cracking up because when I graduated from college, which was in 1991, I had a job where I was a media person and I was working with newspapers all over the country, and it had business cards from every single newspaper and radio station across. Some of these are probably not even some radio station in, I don't even know where El Paso. I
You
don't
haven't
even know.
updated your Rolodex. I love that.
Yes, they're all stapled, and that I mean, I guarantee you anybody that's my age will remember that we had it. It was the way to keep track of everybody. I didn't have a choice because I had to have their phone numbers to place ads in newspapers and radio stations and things like that. That's the way we did it then. Obviously, everything's online, but LinkedIn is sort of the current Rolodex, but
Yeah.
expanded and not so painful to keep up with. And people
That's
didn't leave
awesome.
jobs that much either. They stayed the same place their whole career. So I bet you I call some of these people, they're still there, 30 years later or whatever. But so I do think that social media does a really great job of this. I even see my daughter who is 21 and in college and going into the industry. I find I can see her sometimes now on LinkedIn and all of her friends that grew up with her. They're like, "Very cool, Lauren. Congratulations on your internship," or whatever. They're starting to catch on and do this. So I would say that is to me the best. That's really the best way. I give everybody that recommendation and follow up. You know, um, that's not easy for them to remember to do that, but find yourself a way to sort of, keep up with things. If you care about your career and you care about, what you're going to do, I think that is the best way. And then your other question was about, remind me again. I got caught up in my Rolodex, Amy.
No, no, it was just about reaching out. Like you
Yeah.
may think you know everything and you're in your four walls, but
Yes.
how do you step out sometimes and take the time to really, to your point, invest in your career because you only know what
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I will say, and I just did this today, and I also made this recommendation to my own daughter who is starting a hospitality internship on next Monday. Um, she's like, "We have a meet and greet. How do I prepare for this meet and greet? Like, what do I ask?" And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna recommend exactly what I did this morning about Matt and Amy because I know you both in the industry, but you know what? I don't have all the details of your back. I want to make sure that I can speak articulately about, like, I didn't know Matt was from Canada. Like I didn't know that
Still
until
lives
I looked
there.
that up. I
Crazy
mean, I didn't.
man.
Yeah. So way to go.
Way to go.
Um, I
Way to
mean, I
go.
just think it's cool. Yeah. I didn't know that, and so there's just something, and Amy, there's some things, like, where you've worked before that I didn't realize, which I think is really neat because we don't talk about this. We don't sit and talk about our
We
resumes
have
all day long,
wine
but
and we talk about all the things. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talk about things that are more fun to talk about than that probably, but, I just didn't know that, so I told, my daughter, I said, "Well, get a little curious. Go do some research to make sure that the person that runs that company wrote a book. Make sure you've read it. Um, they have a restaurant near Madison Square Garden, like the Knicks just won. Make sure that you can have a conversation about how'd y'all manage that. Like be a little curious about the company. Don't go in blind ever. Like have a good sense you know, of people. And, even if you are a bartender or a GM, bartenders are really good at this, actually. They're probably best in the world at this. But if you're, a server and you know that you've got a guest that comes in every single week, but this is your first time to wait on them, how about asking the people that have waited on them before? Tell me a little bit about this person so that I hear you're this, or I hear, I went to a new restaurant opening a couple weeks ago and the server came up. We had made reservations. I didn't, and we had done all the brand identity work for this restaurant and, these folks, Amy, and, we went into the restaurant and the server came up and said, "I hear you did the logo for all of our plates and you did all the menu work for our restaurant." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we did." It was in the open table. They connected my name. Now, I didn't do it. Obviously, my team did the great work, but, I'm like, "Yeah, the team did it, and we're so proud." But it was in front of my whole family, and my whole family was there, and I felt so proud in front of my my husband and my family, and I felt so proud that we did it, and they also called it out. So I think there's lots of
The
ways to,
connection,
yeah,
just the
those
connection.
connections.
And with the technology now, Toast, Open Table,
Yes.
um, Spot On now has it like
Fuzzy, yeah.
letter,
Mhm.
yeah, where that'll put your birthday in and what you're allergic to and all the things. So anytime you make a reservation anywhere, it now pops up when somebody just goes in to put your
Oh,
order
it's
in.
so
Pretty
good.
wild.
I mean, we had our 4-year-old grandson at the we have, older 2 older kids that are also in the industry, also in hospitality, and our 4-year-old grandson was there sitting at the table, and it was the first kids meal they sold, but they knew that we had a kid coming because I had put it in the thing. They had never made a kids meal before.
Wow,
So they'd come and they were prepared to do that, which is just, I don't know. I love that.
that's
I'm a
incredible.
fan. Yeah. That builds the relationships. So,
I think to kind of pull this episode together, the one thing I admire so much about both of you, and it shows up in this conversation, is there's so much where we could talk about the work and the resume and the experiences, but you talk about people and connection and you live it. And I think the way that you're create connection for our industry and for somebody like me is really powerful. I couldn't be growing my business in the US without relationships with people like both of you that were willing to take a phone call, have a chat, and help in big some
Well, you pay us a lot of money to be a friend, so
I know.
well,
Waiting on that.
yeah, if I tried to give you $5, you wouldn't take it, but that's but why don't you, that's the one thing, that's Amy resisting a compliment that she does on the show. Thank you, Amy, for that.
la, la,
And
la,
then
la.
these are two of the busiest people with the I would say the biggest real communities. And I think they're just such a great reflection of when you show up with genuine authenticity, if you're an introvert or an extrovert, how it can create connection. And I think if you're a leader in the industry, I would follow them both on LinkedIn. I would be curious
And follow Matt.
and follow me.
Please, yes.
And I say that like I said that from
Mateo from Canada.
on the bottom of my heart.
Learned
Um,
something new today, I'm saying.
Trying something new. Canada, we're trying to get the Canada flight ticket off LinkedIn, but we'll figure that out later. But I appreciate you both, and I think you're such a great example for all of us in the industry, but especially the emerging leader. Amy, tell us about Lead in Dallas just as we close out for today.
It's coming up. We have June
Can't
11th
wait.
in Plano, Texas, and we only have about 20 tickets left. We're pretty well sold out there, but this is a really great time. We've got Jack Gibbons coming to speak. Front Burner
That's the
Society
best.
is helping support. Dr. Emily Williams Knight, always showing up for everyone in the industry. She's going to come talk about grit. Karen Stutz is going to come speak on financials, not only just investing in your restaurants and how to read a P&L, but how to invest in yourself and your retirement. And then, of course, we have badass Matt Rolfe coming who talks about development and how to develop yourself. And we make it almost free. It's only $50. And if you can't afford it, we'll cover you. And if you're listening and you're a leader that wants to buy a few tickets for your teams, let us know. We're really about the community and we're running a nonprofit through Gleeman Leads. So show up and come and if it's standing room only, like last time, then you stand and you learn. And it's just a really cool
So
network.
fun.
So
It's
pop
so
over
fun.
if you can. And then we're working on San Diego and Orange County, California for October. So more to come.
Reserve at Amy's couch.
So fun.
Sounds great. So thank you so much for another great.
Thank you,
Thank
Robin.
you guys. I love
It's
seeing
Amanda.
y'all today. This is
I
fantastic.
we're gonna clip the Rolodex and we're gonna share with the audience on LinkedIn what the Rolodex is. That'll be a small takeaway.
That'd be actually a cute clip. I agree.
Do that right away so you can get the episode. So
Yes.
that'll be our preview. But thank you to you both.